So in the previous session, where we got is we've gone ahead and we've got this guy rated, we've got him down to his joints, we refined this, we're ready to start the rigging process and actually giving this thing some controls. So let's go ahead and recap where we're at and kind of where we're heading. Where we decided to begin with this particular project is we decided to begin with the skin side of things. So we started over here with our skin, and we went ahead and created our joint system. We bound it, we skinned it, all that good stuff. Now, remember, the skin rig is its own standalone rig. So what we're going to go on a journey to do now is create the control rig. And this is going to be a majority of what we do as a rigger, really, is kind of setting up these controls. And this is what's going to allow it to move, which is kind of a big, important step. Now, what we want to make sure we're doing, though, here is creating a funnel here using a reference. So what should be happening with this system is we should have a control rig that it is own distinctive file and a skin rig that it is own distinctive file, and those should be coming together as a singular file. So what we're going to have in this particular system is generally two systems of joints. We're going to have our skin joints, and we are going to have our control joints. Before we go ahead and start building our control file, it can be nice if we designate our skin joints. So what we can do for that is we can come into Maya, we can select our root joint here and do a select hierarchy. And then under modify, you can give this option here to prefix hierarchy names. I don't know if you really need to do the select hierarchy. I like to do that just to make sure they're all selected. But with the prefix hierarchy names, we can add a prefix to the front, and we could just add skin underscore and hit OK. And what that will do is it will add skin to all of these. We can then do a save scene as if we haven't already done so, and we can go ahead and create a skin final. Now, what I usually do is some scene management here. So let's go ahead and do some scene management. I'm going to go ahead and copy this directory so I can pull it up in a folder, but I'm going to go ahead and name this Junk Buddy Skin Rig Final, and I like to do it this way. Different companies you're at might have different systems. Most of the time when I've worked, I have my own independent file, so this is how I manage it. And to make this a little bit more manageable, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the location for this in our file browser. I'm going to create a new folder here that will just be called Work in Progress. You could also name it Versions, whatever you want, and I'm going to drag and drop these into here. So that way the Junk Buddy skin file is here at the top. Now, while we're at it, before we move forward, we might also want to change the size of this. One of the things that we're going to do is we're going to set it up so that our joints here, our skin joints, are going to be controlled by the control joints via a constraint. Now, what can be helpful is if the skin joints are either smaller or larger than. This makes selecting a little bit easier. So I'm going to select the skin root again, do a select hierarchy here, and just set this to 0.1. So they're small, and that way we can very easily tell the difference between a skin and a control joint. And once we're happy with that, we'll go ahead and hit save, and we'll go ahead and open up a new scene. Now, in this new scene, I can go ahead and go to open. If you remember under the rigs in skin rig here, we saved out a joint file. So I want to check the joint file here to begin with and see if it's good to go. There was one little mistake I had where I did not name these, and you'll see that at some point I came back in here and named these. So this should be the correct setup. To turn this into our control file, what I'm going to do is just come in here to our reference editor. I'm going to come to the Junk Buddy Geo here, and we're actually going to remove this by hitting minus. So all we're left with is just the joints. And it looks like it left something here, so I'm just going to delete this. I don't know what that is. If you ever need to get rid of junk in a scene, you can do a file optimize scene size, and this will get rid of any junk data. So I'll go ahead and do that. This should get rid of anything we don't need. And then we can go ahead and adjust these. If you want, you could prefix these. Generally, when we're dealing with the control rig, we don't actually need to prefix these. Usually we make this distinction between skin and not skin, because the skin is going to be what goes into something like a game engine or goes with something like a cached animation. These rigs, they don't necessarily need to have control assigned to them. One thing I do need to do, though, is change the layer over here. This is called skin joints. We're going to switch this to control joints. Save. And if we want to be able to preview this, what we'll do is we'll come up here to File, we'll come in here to the Reference Editor, we'll hit the plus icon, And we'll go ahead and bring in our final skin rig. So we'll go to rigs, skin rig, grab the final, reference this in, and this will be our skin file. So what we're going to want to do here is we're going to want to take these control joints here and make them control the skin joints. And this is going to be the first step. So that way, as we add controls, we'll be able to see this happen. The other thing I might want to do is start grouping things early on, but we'll deal with that when we get there. So if I come into the root joint here and I move this, you'll see this is the one for the control. It does nothing. All we're going to do is we're going to take the control joints, we're going to shift select the skin joint that corresponds to it. You'll see why you want to make it smaller because it needs to be inside of it. And then we're going to do a constrained parent. Just double check to make sure your settings aren't weird. If you need to, you can do a reset and just hit apply. And what that will do is it will now make this joint control that joint, right? And we're going to repeat this with the entire process. Now, since my control joints are larger, I can very quickly select the big one, shift select the small one, constrain parent. And then remember, you can use the hotkey G, so I can go big to small, hit G. If you don't want to select the skin, you'll see it has a layer over here, or at least it doesn't. I guess we'll need to get that. We can take our geometry here, give it a layer. We could go make this our skin underscore geo underscore L, and set that to a reference, or you could even turn it off if you wanted to, but that way we can't select it. And we can continue the process here of going through this. So we can go, it looks like I already made this guy control that one. So that means we're in the next one in line. That's going to be here to here, constrain parents, and just repeat this process. So this does take a bit of time. You'll be able to tell if you made a mistake later, in which case you can just delete the constraint, redo it. There is not a mirror function innately here. You could probably write a script to maybe make a mirror function, but it doesn't take that much longer. If I had a super complex rig with like a million joints, maybe I think about it. But with a simple rig like this, you can just go through and kind of manually do this. And once again, I'm just going to the control rig, to the skin rig, and then hitting that G to apply the constraint. And it is very easy to make a mistake here. So just kind of, understand there's a chance you will, especially if you're like me and you're talking while you're doing it. So just got to be mindful of that. And part of the process of rigging is it does take a bit of time. It doesn't take that much time though, once you start to get these things down, and various things like hotkeys like the G key here really speed things up because we can kind of quickly come in here. Something to kind of mention is these bones can be a little bit tricky to select sometimes. You can click on any part of the bone to make it work. I try and click joint to joint, but the bone also will count. So you'll see if I click this outer bone here, that counted for this one, and I could click this inner bone. So you can either do the joint or the bone to the joint. It doesn't really matter. Whatever gets the thing selected. I know sometimes that's something that kind of trips up students, so just kind of be mindful with that in terms of getting these hooked up and connected. All right. So this is going to be really kind of the first process, and you can also do this afterwards, which is kind of worth noting. The sequence that you do this in really just kind of depends on when you build it. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll create a proxy rig. I'm not going to do that for this series, but if you guys check out the egg rigging character series, I talk about what a proxy is and go through the process of that. I generally don't make proxy rigs when I'm building rigs for games. The only time that I'll develop a proxy rig is if it's a very large production, and it's going to take a long time for the model to get to me. Or if it is a model that is so high detailed or high textured that a proxy rig's needed for performance purposes. But most of the time, working in games, mobile, live service games, you're going so fast, there's no real point for a proxy rig. So just got to be mindful of that. So I think we have these all hooked up. What you want to do at this stage is you want to take your skin joints, and you'll see this currently has a prefix on it since I didn't merge those in, but we can toggle the visibility on those. And more importantly, we don't ever want to touch the skin joints again, so you can actually set that to a reference if you want. Just turn that off. And now our control joints should be what's in control of the skin. And as we're going, we can see if there's any issues with that, but I think we're good now. And we have our file set up here to where we're not going to be grabbing our rig on accident. We're not going to be grabbing our controls on accident. By controls, I mean joints. For the skin, So a couple very important steps at the end here. Okay. I know I already did them, but I do want to reiterate that they're very important. Is you do want to make sure that you put the skin joints on the layer over here. You can see that I have the skin joints here. And I have that previously from the file before. So if you guys didn't set that up, you want to set it up in your main file. And you want to toggle the visibility. You want to turn that visibility to off by having this box be empty. That way, we're not accidentally touching these. We're not accidentally attaching controls to them. This is a major issue that I used to do when I first started out rigging, is with these two joint systems in place, if you have them on and overlapping, it is very easy to grab the wrong joint. You're not paying attention, or maybe you're doing an IK handle and you don't even realize I grabbed the wrong one. So generally speaking, we want to avoid that if possible. So make sure you have this on a layer and visibility. And the same goes with the geometry. We want to make sure we're not selecting the geo, so make sure that you have the geo on a layer. But in this particular case, you don't want to toggle the visibility. You want to set that third box to an R for reference. That way, it's locked down and we're not going to select it. So once you have this all set up, let's go ahead and save. And this time we're going to come out of the file here and we're going to actually put this into the control rig. And what I'll do is just create a new folder here, and we'll go ahead and name this work in progress. And we'll just go ahead and make this my junk buddy CTRL rig 01 and save. And then we're ready to start building the controls. So this process takes a bit of time. I want to give you an opportunity to get caught up to this point. I don't want to overwhelm you guys with jumping right into the controls. So go ahead and get this system set up. Get your main skin rig referenced into one of your joint files. Go through the process of getting these parents set up so that way they control them. Add some scene management with the layers. And then when we come back, we're going to start building the controls for this and starting to make this thing able to move.